Renata Voss hadn't spoken to her Uncle Desmond in over 15 years when the call came, informing her he had died alone on the rural property he'd lived on since before she was born. Her mother's older brother had been a name mentioned only in passing at family gatherings, a man who'd cut himself off from everyone after a falling out nobody had fully explained. As his only listed next of kin, Renata inherited the property by default. 3 acres, a small farmhouse in disrepair, and behind it, sprawling across most of the backyard, an enormous pile of old tires clearly accumulated over decades. She drove out the following weekend with a contractor, Marcus, to assess clearing the land before listing it. Neither had seen anything like it. Hundreds of tires stacked in uneven mounds stretching from the back porch almost to the tree line. Marcus guessed it would take a full week just to haul everything out. Renata didn't ask why her uncle had collected them. She'd stopped expecting answers about Desmond a long time ago. They started clearing from the edges inward, loading tires onto a flatbed 1 stack at a time. By the second day, the work had gone mechanical, the kind of labor where your mind drifts somewhere else entirely. It was Marcus who noticed it first, near the center of the pile, half buried under a dozen others. One tire sat differently, its sidewall bulging slightly, like something had been packed inside that didn't belong. Inside, once they cut it open, wrapped in plastic sheeting and duct tape, was a waterproof case about the size of a shoebox. Renata carried it into the farmhouse and set it on the kitchen table, hands unsteady as she worked through the tape. Whatever it was, Desmond had gone to real effort to protect it from weather and time. That alone told her it mattered. She kept circling the pile in her mind that evening before opening it, wondering what kind of man buries something at the exact center of hundreds of tires rather than simply locking it away inside his own house, 200 feet closer and infinitely easier to reach. Inside the case, she found a stack of letters, dozens of them, along with old photographs and a faded clipping about her own mother's wedding from over 20 years earlier. The letters were addressed to her mother, to Renata's grandparents, to cousins she barely remembered existed. None had ever been sent. Most weren't even sealed in envelopes, just folded pages covered in Desmond's handwriting, dated across more than 2 decades. Reading through them, the falling out finally took shape. Desmond had made a serious financial mistake in his 20s, one that cost the family money during a year they could least afford it. Hurt and humiliated, he'd pulled away rather than face what he'd done, and the family, equally hurt, let him go rather than chase someone determined to disappear. But the letters showed he'd never actually stopped trying. Every few years after a birth, a death, a holiday he'd heard about secondhand, he'd write again, drafting apologies and questions about lives he had no way of actually knowing. Then he'd fold the letter into the stack and never send it, convinced too much damage had been done for anyone to want to hear from him. The tires, Renata understood now, weren't random hoarding. Desmond had started collecting them around the same time as the earliest letters, free scrap from a garage job. Somewhere along the way, it became a barrier, a way of building something physical between himself and a world he didn't believe still wanted him in it. Burying the letters where he'd have to dig past everything to reach them may have been the only way to keep them close without ever risking sending them. She called her mother that night and read parts aloud. Her mother went quiet, then admitted she'd wondered more than once whether Desmond had ever thought of them at all. Renata later tracked down 2 cousins mentioned in the letters who drifted even further from the family than Desmond had, reconnecting threads he'd spent 20 years too afraid to pull himself. She kept every letter, even the ones with nothing important beyond a man checking in on people who never knew he was watching. Hundreds of worthless tires waiting to be hauled away had held the one thing her uncle spent half his life trying and failing to give his family. Proof he'd never actually let go. Would you read every letter or stop at the first one that broke your heart?